Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 8 lecture. So in this lecture, what I'm going to do is there's another video that I already have for chapter 8 for Sage 50 2021. But this is a smaller version of chapter 8 that I'm posting right here. So in this chapter, the main in this lecture, the main focus is the exercise 8.1 till the end of 8.6, which is setting up the inventory module. So this chapter 8 is focused on inventory and requires you to have a good understanding on all the modules such as GL, AP, and AR. But this video is only going to focus on setting up the inventory and adding the inventory items and making sure that it is reconciled to the trial balance to make the company file ready. So in this exercise, if you guys look at this chapter, there are 8.1 to 8.6 which focus on setting up the inventory. So there are actually, if you look at this chapter is focused on six steps. Step 1 to 5 is setting up the inventory, and step 6 is journal entries. So we're going to leave the step 6 and going to come back to these exercises later on when you are ready and you have completed all the chapters such as 2B, 3B, and also the payroll module as well. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how to set up the inventory module by working on exercise 8.1 to 8.6. So now if you guys go into your online textbook for under the top hat, you will notice that there are two files that are available for this chapter. This company file that we're working on is printers. There are two printer files that are available. There's printers.exe and there's printers2.exe. So the printer2.exe already has the inventory module ready. So if you're starting from exercise 8.7, then you can start from the second file, which is printers2. But if you are completing the chapter from the beginning, or you're just doing the first part, you will start the file by opening the printers.exe. So what we're going to do is we're going to download this particular file. And now I'm going to extract this file before I open it. So as I mentioned to you guys, you can put that onto the USB or any particular location where you're saving all the file. I'm going to let it go on this particular folder because that's where I'm going to open my file as well. Okay, so now this is open. Then I'm going to open Sage 50 2021, select existing company. Then I'm going to locate the file. Printers. And the session date January 1, 2025. Okay, so now we have the company file ready. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start from the exercise 8.1. So if you notice that in this chapter, what's going to happen is you are setting up the inventory. So if you go into step number 1, in step 1, you're starting the inventory module. So they give you the company background information that you can look at the trial balance. The trial balance should look like this. Your AR report should look like this. AP report should look like this. And then now you're converting and you're starting the inventory module. So we already unzipped the file and we accepted the session date as January 1. Now on this file, you may notice that there is no inventory module here. So it's asking me to activate the inventory module. So to do that, I'm sure you guys know how to do that. I will show you guys as well. Setup and user views, and we're going to click inventory. You will notice that as soon as I click inventory, there is a history tab that will come right here, because now it's saying that you need to set up the inventory. So there is a history tab, and when you go into the inventory, you see there is no inventory. Now what you're doing is you're making sure the inventory are added. And once the inventory is added, you want to make sure the balance for that inventory should match with your trial balance. So now if we go into the trial balance, so if I go into a trial balance as of January 1, 2025, you will see there may be one or more inventory account that are listed on your trial balance. So if I go right here, I see there's a lot of inventory accounts. These are the inventory accounts. So whenever I'm going to set up the inventory item, I'm going to link them to one of these inventory account. And once I finish, the system is going to make sure that all the items that are added and the balance for those items should equal to the total of those items should equal to the inventory number that are here in the trial balance. And then if it does, then it will let you go on and start getting rid of the history tab. So now what you guys need to do is, now we're going to go back into this exercise. So now we have the inventory module that's ready, and now I'll show you guys these things. And then what we're going to do is, I'm going to go through that, but the main focus I wanted to show you is, this is the inventory detail we have, and when we are setting up these inventory item, by item, that's the detail for each item, the quantity, the units, minimum units that you want to have, which asset account I'm going to link, what the price of those products are going to be, which is the revenue account for that, what is the cost of goods sold account that you have. And now this is the history, so it tells me that these are the quantities I have on hand, and this is the value of that inventory. And the total for this 5956 should equal to the total of all the inventory accounts that you have. So when the system is going to check, the system is going to check all the 1270. So there's only 1271. There's only this item that is going into 1270, and the amount is 800, and it should match with your GL balance as well. That's what the system will make sure that there is no errors like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through step by step and add all those inventory items, and I'll show you guys how that will happen. And once I'm done here, I want to make sure that you guys read through this entire chapter and understand and try to do all that inventory items added into the system, so that way you understand. And once you finish, you will preview your report, and your quantities should look like this. And then when you look at the inventory balance report, the inventory summary report, it should have these values with the total of 15,956. Okay, and then once that finished, then you will set the inventory module to ready mode by clicking on the history tab, and then this is the message you're going to get. If there's an error, there will be a message that will come. If there is no error, you will just get this message, and then you finish setting up the inventory. Now let's go through that. Okay, so now we already activated the inventory module. So now when you click on this inventory, you will see this particular section. Now on this right hand side, similar to we have in AP and AR, you will see a list of all the inventory items. Now there is nothing because we have not added anything. Now this is the inventory tab. So if you were to add, modify, or remove an inventory item, you can either do it from here, or you can do it once you have the inventory list here. Then you have build from bill of material. Now some companies, what they do is they have manufacturing facilities. So what they do is they will take the bill of material and then build something using the raw material that you have. So what you do is you take some of the material from your inventory and create bill of material. That feature is usually used in a manufacturing facilities when you're converting a raw material into a finished goods. Build from items assembly. So if you assemble few items, so for example, I have 3 different inventory items, I wanted to put them together into a one package and then put a price of labor into that as well. That's when you do a build from item assembly. Okay, I don't usually test these features in the test, but it's a good feature for you to know. So if you click on build from bill of material, so system will do a journal entry and take the items away from the items that you selected, items to build. So this is where you select the item that you're going to build, and then it will, you mention how many quantities you're going to build by using the items that you have, And then once you click post, it will do a journal entry by getting rid of the other inventory and adding a new inventory item. When you click build from item, so in this case, this is where you're taking, actually build from bill of material is you're creating an item but not combining anything. You just take one item and build. So if you're adding any additional cost in that, so you're not using, so you're just building, converting a raw material into a finished product. When you build from material, so this is where you come in, where you say, okay, well, I'm taking it from this particular unit and assembling into this particular unit. Okay, the items need to be existing already, so all you're doing is taking it from here and putting into this particular item, and the system will do a journal entry by creating the items that you selected here and adapting the item that you assemble. All right, so that's something that you will do if your company is creating their own inventory by using the mix of inventory within your company. This is what you usually do when you're doing an adjustment for inventory. That's usually done on a month end, quarter end, or year end. And this is if you have different locations, you can transfer inventory from one location to another. Okay, so in this exercise, we're not going to do any of these particular sections. What we're going to do is we're going to more focus on adding inventory. Now, before we add into the inventory, I'm going to take you to the setup of inventory. So here, go into setup and go into the settings. And similar to what we used to do in the link ups, we go into the inventory and click on the link up here. So now you see that it doesn't link anything other than just asking you the item assembly cost. So if you assemble a particular cost and you put a dollar amount, it will automatically goes to a particular GL account, and you have to mention which GL account that will be. For example, in this case, I say, okay, well, I'll just go to inventory adjustment and the adjust. So technically we don't assemble anything in this, so we'll just ignore the assembly cost. But if you have an assembly cost such as labor cost, so you can put that labor cost and expense, select that here. So now anytime you say there's an assembly cost of $50, it will post that into the labor cost expense, whatever GL account that you will select here. So in this case, in this example, we are not going to use the assembly cost, but if you do have it, you will select that here. And if you're doing an adjustment and you have to mention the system as which GL account system should use for inventory adjustment. So here we look at the cost of inventory adjustment account. We do have it here. So we select that particular account. Now, if you want to change anything here, you can do that as well. For example, under the option, if you remember from accounting 111, you may remember that we have weighted average cost and first in first out inventory module. So in that case, system will calculate the cost of goods sold using one of these methods. Okay, so if you want system to use the average cost, you will select the average cost. If you want the system to use first in first out, you will select this here. Okay, so you're not doing any working papers or the spreadsheets that you used to do before. So you simply leave it for the system to do that. Okay, so now what we can do is we can click on average cost, because the system is going to use the average cost. And then here, how do you want the company to evaluate the profit? Is based on the markup or margin? The standard thing is it's always margin. The margin is usually based on a percentage of sales, so we'll leave that as it is. And markup is usually on cost. So if you want to see your gross profit based on the cost, you can do it as a markup. Okay, but for financial reporting purposes, always based on a margin. So how do you want the inventory to be sorted? By a description of the inventory or by number? So we'll leave it as default as number. Price list. So these are standard pricing that you have whenever you add new inventory item. It's going to say what is your regular price, preferred price, or web price. Now if you want to add more into the list, you can add that as well. If you want to change anything, you cannot actually change it. So it's just, these are the standards. Locations, if you have multiple locations, you can add these locations here, but primary location is already there. Categories, if you want to create multiple categories for the different items that you have, you can do that here as well. And if you have wanted to add any additional fields into the inventory list, you have 5 different additional fields, and you can just need to put the title for that field and it will show up in your list when you are doing the inventory when you are adding the inventory in your inventory module. So we don't need to use any additional feature, we can simply skip that. So now what can you use this? Sometimes what happened is you may have barcodes. So if you want the inventory items to show your barcode as well, you can put, for example, field 1 as barcode. Anytime you are adding that inventory, the barcode will show up in that inventory list as well. Yeah, that's just an example. Okay, so we already talked about the link up. So now once we finish, we press OK. So the setting of the inventory is done. All the setup is done. Now what we need to do is add the inventory. So now to add the inventory, what you do is you click right here and click Add Inventory. So when you click Add Inventory, this is where you come in. So first thing that you do is you add the inventory number, then you put a description to it, and then you put the detail for all the details by going through each of the tabs. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the chapter 2 exercise where they give me a list of all the inventory. So here is your list of all the inventory items that we have. So inkjet black cartridge is the first item. That's the item name, and this is the inventory item number. So it's IBC01 as inkjet black cartridge. So here going to do that is, okay, so I'm just going to move this one right here so I can see it. So IBC-01, and here I put the description. I say inkjet black cartridge. Okay, so now you go in, and how do you want this quantity to show is each item. If it's by certain category, you can do that, but here you only have each. So here you mention how much minimum quantity you want to have. So this is where the system will give you a warning if it goes below this number. So we put 26. Then you go into the unit. So here, see here, say each. So anytime we change anything, it will change it here as well. So here it says each. Then comes to the regular pricing. So now this is, remember when we go into the setup, we were showing these pricing. So now you put the price. So the regular price, so this is a sale price, actual sale price that you're selling to your customers. So when you're doing the sale, this is where it's going to pick up the price. And the preferred price is 37.5. And we don't sell it online, so we put 0 on the web price. Then we go into the link up. So this is where the system will know this particular item. Whenever you buy something, it will go to your asset, which is the inventory account. So remember, we are using perpetual inventory system, so that way every time we buy inventory, it will go to the asset, which is 1270 inventory account. And whenever we're selling this particular item, it goes to this particular revenue account, that is 4100. And also at the same time, because it's a perpetual inventory system, it will also do a cost of goods sold entry as well. So this is where it's going to pick up the cost of goods sold account. Now build, this is only if you're building an item by using your existing inventory. So you can do that here, but we don't do a build in this company file. So we'll skip this part. Statistics, this is where you enter the information. If you were to put the year-to-date information, because the system will keep track of how many units were sold, what was the average cost, because there is no history, so it's all 0. But if you wanted to enter the history from the previous year, you can enter that here. So we'll skip that. Taxes, so here you mention what taxes is going to use. It already have the HST, so we'll leave that as it is. So remember I said there are 5 different additional fields. So they say field 1, 2, 3. So if you would have changed anything on that setup, it would have shown up to that name. For example, when I was telling you that we can use field 1 for barcode, so we will say barcode in that setting, and it will show up as a barcode, and you put the actual barcode number for that item number. Now this is where the history comes in. So this is where you enter how much quantity you have on that particular date. We say we have 40, and what is the value of that item? 40 items is 800. So now you finish, and now you can do save and close, or you can say create another. So I click create another, then it takes you to the another window. So here I will add the second one now, IP-001, and here say inkjet printer 5-in-1, and again you start the same process. You start from quantity is 30, and then you go into the units. Each pricing, we'll put the pricing 245 for regular, and 235 for preferred, and 0 for web price. And then we go into the link up, we say 1250 here, and then we do 4100 as a revenue and 5010 as a cost of goods sold. Now where am I getting that? I'm following this all the way to the end. Okay, so you're always doing it vertically like that. Okay, then the variance will book that to cost of goods sold as well, but if you don't, you can skip that as well. Build, we skip it. Statistics, we're gonna skip it, and then we jump onto the history. So we have 53 units on hand, and the value is 7950, and then we create another. And now we go into the third line here, laser black cartridge, and we're going to use this information to add the inventory. So here we do LBC-01 laser black cartridge, and then quantity is the minimum quantity is 10. I think I did not put the minimum quantity with the last one, but I can always go back. After I finish, I'll show you guys how you can go back. Unit, each pricing, regular is 99, the prefer is 98, and web price is 0, and link up, we link this to the asset 1280, and the revenue is 4110, and the cost of goods sold is 5020. And again, variance, you can put the same cost of goods sold, or you can skip that. Then we jump into the history, and here we say we have 16 units, and the value for that is 1056. I'm going to save and close. Okay, then I go back here. You see there are 3 items that are added. I want to go back to the previous one, which is 5-in-1, and check. I did put the minimum for that, so that's fine. We did put it in. Okay. Now if you were to add it here, you can again go back right here on this arrow and click add, or you can simply click on this window and say create a new inventory item. Now again, I'm going to go back. Now I'm doing number 4, which is the laser printer 20p. So here I said this is LP-001. I say laser printer 20p, and the minimum quantity is 12, and come to the pricing, and the pricing for that is 400 for the regular, and the preferred price is 385, and 0 for the web price. Then go to the link up, and the asset for that is 1260, and the sale is 4110, and the cost of goods sold is 5020, and then we'll skip the variance account, and then we go into the quantity, and the quantity we have is 20 units, and the cost is 5800. Okay, and then we go into the last one now, create another, and then we look at the last one, which is C-01, and we call this printer cable USB, and then we again start from the quantity. The minimum quantities we need is 20, and then the unit, we don't need to do anything, and then come to the pricing. $15 is a regular price, and 14 is preferred, and 0 for the web price. For the linker, we link it to 1290. We have a separate account for the cables and separate account for revenues 4120 and the separate account for the cost of goods sold. Then again we go to the history. We said we have 50 cables right now and the cost for these cables is 350 and save and close. Okay, so now we ended up adding all the inventory items that we had. Okay, so I explained to you guys what each of those tabs were. Again, you guys can go through what's here in your test book and make sure you spend some time on going through and understanding the different parts we talked about. And once you finish, you want to check your inventory and make sure your inventory quantities looks exactly the way it shows up here. So we go to the reports and then go into the inventory and look at summary. Okay, so actually this is not a summary report, this is a quantity report. So this is the quantity display inventory detail and quantity. So see here the select quantity. So in this case we only want to check the quantity. So we go into the inventory and say quantity. So the difference between summary is the summary shows you the exact amount. Now you can do it by asset or by item. So I prefer to do it by item. Select all. Okay. Now you can do is you can look at this report, compare that with the report that you have in your test book. Okay. So remember, I think I did show you guys this report when we were doing chapter 3A. It also mentioned if there's anything on a purchase order or sales order, I also mentioned that here. It tells you how much you have versus how much minimum is required. And that's exactly what you have here as well. Okay. Now, if you wanted to go back and look at the quantity report, it tells you how much units you have, what is the cost of those units, and what is the total value. So this is an average cost, and this is the total value. So and then it should look, the amount should equal to 15,956. So here we go into reports, inventory, and look at the summary report. Again by items, select all. Okay. Okay, so here it is. We have the list of the inventory with the quantities and the average price and the value. And then if you want, you can check this total with the total from the trial balance, or even if I go into the financials and look at the balance sheet. The reason that I'm looking at the balance sheet, because it may have grouped all the inventory accounts into one and shows you the total for your inventory. So if you look at the inventory here, so it adds up all the inventory account and shows the inventory total for 15,956. Now I know that this amount agrees with my balance for the inventory. So if that is the case, that means we are finished. Now we want to perform the last step, which is step number 5 in this exercise, to finish it and make the company file to ready mode. So to do that, you click on history and you click on this. See, everything is here, but I have to close the inventory report. So anytime you wanted to close and make the company file to ready mode, you want to make sure all the windows for CH50 is closed. Okay, you can either check it by looking at if there's any particular window, or there's a button here say close other windows. You click on this. If there's any particular windows that you have, you will close it. If there's a journal entry that you were doing, it's going to ask you to save. If you don't want to save it, you disregard and then it will close that window. Now you go back to the same place. You see journal, payable and receivables are already unchecked because they were already set up. The only thing that you were setting up was the inventory. So now if you finish this, you're going to click on this. It's going to give you the similar warning, say you're about to enter the enter the inventory for that module, which is inventory. You want to proceed. You can say proceed. And now this is done. No error came up. Now you have inventory set up. Now you're ready to start recording transactions. Okay, so this is what you were doing for setting up the inventory. The reason that I'm doing this inventory setup is that if you are doing any challenge exercises that requires you to set up the inventory, or if you're doing chapter 5, which is again another chapter 6, where you're setting up the company and then also recording transactions. In that, you are required to set up the inventory. So it is good that you spend some time to go through setting up the inventory. Okay. So now this is the end of this lecture, and now if you're required to continue with the exercise 8.7, you can listen to the other recording that I have, and if not, this will be the end of setting up the inventory module. Thank you, everyone. Take care.